Hello there, right here we have a brand new snapshot for 1.18. This is 21W43A, and this is part of the Caves and Cliffs Part 2. Having played this game for over 12 years, I will be using my expertise to give you guys a review of the newest changes. So let's see exactly what happened when updating old worlds to the new snapshot. Go ahead, click know what I'm doing. So one of the new things they added is the blending between the old worlds and the new world. So 1.17 is over here, and we got 1.18 generation over here. You can see there is a slight line, and this is their first iteration of it. So they're going to continue working on making this really good. And so far it's not too bad. I've seen over here by the desert, when it transitions over to the jungle, it is pretty defined right there. But at least we don't see any like extremely big cliff sides or open exposed sides like we did the last time. Another change they made for generation is underneath of the world, all the old chunks aren't going to have caves below wide level 0. So you can see currently everything underneath of the old world doesn't have any caves, but they did actually fill it in with blocks, solid deep play all the way through, but they'll eventually add it so that caves will generate underneath of the old worlds. They also changed out the bedrock that was here at wide level 0, and they converted it over into deep slate. Now the bedrock is going to be at the very bottom of the world at -64. But it does sound like the developers are going to give us an option for people that want to leave the bedrock in and leave their old chunks like alone. And of course you could also probably do this with a third-party program. It does look like the bedrock that they did put at the bottom of -64 is just one layer and not the normal several layers. But this is all still in testing. Now you can see the new chunks that are in the distance do have the new caves. So if you want to get the caves in your old chunks, they said do not update to this version, or at least make sure to make a backup as you always should do. And it looks like the bedrock in this new area has it correctly. With the developers' main focus on the generation, they have plenty of time to try to get this to look really nice. Over here along the edge, I actually found some land that is considered an ocean. So we got a ship right in the middle of it. I found this village here that actually goes over top of the blend line so that it continues into the new generation. There is some funny stuff going on, like this is an ocean biome, so this is actually a stony shore because it thinks that's the ocean over there, and the village is kind of over top of the ocean and the stony shore, making it look really weird. You can see how they made this windswept hills transition over into this plains by having this little kind of hilly forest in between. One of the results of this is this, we have a wall of water. When the blending point is between two forests, it looks a lot more natural. I did find some of these weird airs that were occurring right beside the chunk that was supposed to be blended, and it looks like this one is related to maybe a fossil, and there's some over here. I don't know if there's also fossils with these as well. Yeah, it looks like these are also related to fossils. So some of the fossils are putting huge air gaps underneath of them, so it makes these holes that go all the way down through the world. They actually go right on through the bedrock. So I guess they break bedrock. I found this floating rune portal, but right beside it there's actually a floating entire village out here in the ocean, and even parts of it are like floating above the water. And the weird thing is apparently it's supposed to be coming from a desert, but there's really no desert. Here's some more bizarrities. There's a chunk here that is bamboo jungle. And over here we have a single chunk middle of the desert that's also bamboo jungle. They came in and changed the priority updates. So now it's called Chunk Builder. And it's in your video settings. Default is semi-blocking. It says some actions within the chunk will recompile the chunk immediately. This includes block placement and destroying. There's also an option for fully blocking, where nearby chunks will always be compiled immediately. This may impact game performance when blocks are placed or destroyed. Then there is a threaded setting. Nearby chunks are compiled in parallel threads. This may result in brief visual holes when the blocks are destroyed. So if you have problems where it looks like parts of the world aren't loading in, you can come in here and change this setting. So before there was a lot of flooded caves near rivers and oceans, and they kind of reduced that because it was getting pretty excessive. They also made a change to aquifers so that their levels will change less often. That means there's going to be more aquifers at the similar Y level in the area, making it easier to take your boat across these really big ones and actually traverse the caves more easily. Now before, the small drip leaf was pretty limited in what blocks you could place on that didn't have water. So it's mostly clay, but the big drip leaf you could pretty much place on any block. Now this has completely changed. So now it's restricted to clay, grass, dirt, farmland, moss, rooted dirt, podzol, and even mycelium. So pretty much blocks that Enderman can pick up. So keep that in mind if you're using this stuff inside of any control. They also made some technical changes in this snapshot, which has to do with the internal details of block and fluid ticking. And these changes were made to improve save time. Now I have noticed over the last two versions that the time it takes for the game to save has been getting slower. So I'm glad they're addressing this. Now they do say while this should make it exactly as it was before, it says it's best to test your redstone components in a backup world to see if they work exactly as they did before. Now this shouldn't really affect most of my redstone as I try to keep it really basic for people to understand, but could affect people doing like really fast doors, like the redstone door community. They're always trying to use really fast setups for redstone to make the doors like instantly open or close. On top of that, they also did a update to chunk formatting, and here's a list of everything that they moved around to different places. Something I forgot to mention in the last snapshot review is they added a little indicator that shows if your world saved in single player. So if you look in the bottom right as I press escape, there's a little word that just barely popped up that said saving your world, and you can choose to have this thing visible or not using this option right here. After the video, you guys can join us in testing out all the new features. IP and other information can be found on my Discord. Thanks to Bisect Hosting for hosting these servers, and they will give you guys 25% off if you use the code RAY or the link in the description. We know the developers are aiming to release 1.18 in a month or two, so around Thanksgiving or Christmas. That means they're continuing to fix a bunch of different issues throughout the game. So let's take a look at everything that the developers have fixed this week. In some variations of the Badlands, there wasn't any red or yellow terracotta. They also resolved a problem with Badlands where the really high ones were just having orange terracotta cover the entire top piece. Coral can typically generate in warm oceans, but it wasn't doing this in the deep oceans. Another problem with deep ocean is that it wasn't actually needed in order to get the adventure time advancement. They also fixed it so pufferfish will spawn here again. They resolved the problem that decorators are independent of the world seed. These are the things that put in the extra floral and vegetation to the world. And it's important that they're consistent, but when you play the seed over again, you're given the same possibilities. There was this problem where gravel in the nether would be sometimes held up by stone, and that's been removed. Because they added it so that lava springs could generate from snow, and snow can generate on top of icebergs, there was actually icebergs with lava coming out of them. And this was not intended and was removed. I would like to thank you guys all for watching, and I will see you guys over at my Twitch stream. Bye-bye!